Kurungahoma. On today's video we're going to use a handful of items, rubbishy items, to make ourselves a small little boat. So if that seems like your sort of thing, stick around and I'll see you in the video. So, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to take some commonly found bits of rubbish and turn it into something cool, like a toy. I do this a lot at home with my sons, and we quite often make things out of recycled items or pieces of things that would be kind of commonly assumed as trash and turn them into boats, because I live next to a little stream and we chuck them in the stream and let them float along and pick them up and keep playing with them over and over and over again. So what we're going to do today is, I've never tried this before, so this is a bit of an experiment myself to see if it was going to work, is we're going to take some pistachio shells, okay, and use that for the hull of our boat, and we're going to take a toothpick that I found in something else that was used to kind of prop something up, so it's going to go in the bin anyway. So we're going to use these to make the main body of our boat. So stick around and I'll try and talk you through the process. Okay, the first thing we want to do is we want to find a really nice pistachio shell. You don't want any cracks in it because it's going to take on water, and you want it to be relatively deep enough that it's going to displace water. Now what I recommend is I'm going to use a pistachio shell, just because I like the challenge of it. You could alternatively use a walnut shell. They make really, really good boats because they're so thick and buoyant. Alternatively, you could also use half of an almond shell or any other nut shell that has this kind of a certain shape. Walnuts work really well if you don't have these ones, but yeah, I'm going to use pistachio. If you've got pistachio nuts and you want to use these, you could probably, I'm about to put a hole in it, and you could probably use a thumbtack, pushing really carefully because you don't want to crack it. But what I'm going to do is, just to be doubly sure, I'm going to be using my rotary tool, my Dremel. Okay, and I'm just going to carefully drill through. Now, this is going to be the bow, and this is going to be the stern. So this is going to be the front, and that's going to be the back. Okay, we're not worried about port and starboard, but that's the bow. Okay, so I want to drill relatively off-centered toward the bow, if that makes sense. Okay, so let's see what happens. So I've got my little hole drilled through my pistachio shell. Now I recommend, if you've got an adult at home has a kind of tool that you can drill through, get them to do it, okay, because it's much safer. And you can see mine is relatively centered, okay, and what I mean by centered is centered that way and off-centered going that way, because if I put it too far back, it's going to tip back when I add all the other parts on. So I want to try and keep it as balanced as I possibly can. So now what I need to do is I'm going to get my toothpick and start figuring out how long I want my mast to be. So here is my mast, my main mast, jammed inside my pistachio shell, and I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on the bottom just to hold it in place, and also it'll probably make it a little bit watertight, but it's kind of like a tight fit, so that should be hopefully enough. Now, if it is a tight fit and you get it in that much, you don't want to force it, because what will end up happening is you'll break your shell and probably have to try and start again and look for another one. And if you found the perfect shell the first time, you might not find a really good replacement the second time round. Now, I don't want to make the mast this long. If I make it this long, what's going to happen is my boat's going to tip over because it's too top heavy. So what I want is, I only want the mast to be about that long, okay? To be about that big. The rest, I'm going to recycle the rest, because I'll need to use it for what's called the boom. And the boom is the cross member that holds the other part of the sail on. So stick around. This is a really simple build. It's not going to take us long. I don't know if you remember this from a couple of videos back. Pro tip, if you get some baking soda and sprinkle that on your project, that is going to make your super glue instantly set. So if I
sprinkle a little bit on the underside there, try and keep it in the video for you guys. Make sure that you don't get any super glue on your fingers and baking soda at the same time.
See how that's already instantly gone hard and won't move at our place? So then do the same thing again.
Try and get it in the joints where you want it to go. And what it does is it makes like a super glue concrete. Okay, so that's nice and
Set now. Now the only thing that we need to do left is make a sail. So we might need to trim a little bit off the end of our boom here. We'll wait for it to set first, because it's better to do it like this and then see how much length you've got than try and pre-cut it and find that you've done it too short. So what I've done now is I've cut the length off the boom, and here's my sail. It's just a little piece of plastic, and I did the same thing as I did before. I added super glue to the mast and the boom, attached my sail to the point where it just was enough to stick, and then I sprinkled baking soda on it, and that's made it instantly hard. Now what I need to do is I need to test it to make sure that it's seaworthy, and I might have to make a few adjustments by adding blue tack and things like that, just to give it some ballast so it stays upright in the water. Will it sink or will it capsize? Let's find out. Look at that, eh? So if I put a gentle breeze on there. Now, the benefit of having made such a small boat, if it goes under, it's just kind of blow dry. So it's easy to dry off and start all over again. Now, this is kind of just a little tiny toy that you could play with in like a cup of water even. You could just put it inside a mug at home and just blow it around the mug. I wouldn't put it in a stream. It'll probably sink and you'll never see it again. But it just shows you what you can do with a pistachio shell, a toothpick and a little piece of plastic. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Try things out. Tell me in the comments what you make that you could make this boat out of. There are heaps of other items that I salvaged for this. This is a coffee stirrer, the inside of an old ballpoint pen, some old chopsticks. Chopsticks make good outrigger canoes, by the way. I'll put a link to outrigger canoe up in the above here, and you can try that out yourself as well if you're not into something like this. But for next time, it's ka kite anō, and I'll see you next time on Mr. Ashley's Place.